Hello and welcome to a new episode of the Yarnflakes Podcast. My name is Audrey and it is a nitty yarny podcast from the southwest of France. Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining me for this new episode. I hope you're doing very well. I am. I kind of switched my plans as far as recording goes, so I'm actually coming to you with an episode now because I have quite a couple of things to share with you. And that way the episode that's gonna come up at the beginning of October might not be as bulky. We'll see. My hair is wet because I just washed it, because I do that from time to time, and so you can just appreciate washing it as it dries and gets a life of its own, I guess. But it's early morning here. And I have selected 3 things that I want to share with you. First up is a pattern release, although as you will see it is currently an exclusive part of a collaboration. And I have 2 works in progress to share, one of them you already know and a new one. And yeah, I thought they made quite a cute collection, all 3 together, and that it was nice to present them to you in an episode. So I'm gonna go right in. You can find timestamps to all the different sections in the podcast in the description down below. So if you want to skip anything, feel free to go there and do that. I also put links to everything that I talk about, as well as my social media and patterns for sale on Ravelry. So let's go. First up, I'm wearing a t-shirt. It's a French maker who makes these t-shirts. I don't know if they ship worldwide. Maybe they should at least ship to Belgium, I assume. But yeah, I'll put the link in the description just in case. But yeah, they're really nice t-shirt, and they all have like knitting or crochet or sewing, I think, related writings on them. So there you go. First off, I have just put out sort of a new pattern. So I believe I've showed it to you as I was making it, although I'm not so sure anymore. But a few months ago I was contacted by a lovely French indie dyer called Heidi, and she wanted to see if I could design something to go with her baby camel and silk base. And so I said yes, and I was able to create this. So this is the Harol shawl. Harol is, I remember saying that, so I must have showed it to you. Harol is one of French word for a sort of pine tree in the Alps, and I thought it was a nice word and fitting, considering this is the pin colorway, so the pine colorway. It's a really nice deep green that has a bit of light to it, and as you can see, it just shows off really well in the base. The baby camel is just a really interesting fiber because it's so drapey, and it shines through, and it has beigey sort of undertone to it, so when dyers over dye it, it just has a really interesting depth, and I really like it. And the silk just adds up to this characteristics. So the pattern is now, for now, available as a kit through ID. So if you go on their website, you should be able to see it. I will put the links in the description, of course. And you receive 2 skeins so that you're able to make the shawl and the pattern. And until Sunday, so for the first week of the launch, the kits are 10% off, so you have a little discount, and it is really a beautiful yarn, and I think it fitted the design very well, because it's kind of tricky for shawls to be able to make intricate cables motif, because the shawl has to be super drapey, but at the same time you don't want the gauge to be too loose if you're making cables, because then the cables don't show. And I think the advantage of this base is that it has naturally the drape in the fiber anyway, and so I was able to not use such a loose gauge, and that's why the cables are showing really nicely. So Heidi, they have a ton of different colorways, a lot of really beautiful ones available. You can see that some of my testers on Ravelry have also used the yarn, and so you can see a variety of really pretty colorways. They all looked very interesting. So if you would like to try that base, that dye, I highly recommend it. I really think it's a great shawl base, and it just worked really, really well for this design. Like I said, I'm gonna get later a bit more into the construction of it, so you'll understand even more. So yay! In case you are not able or don't want to get the kit, don't worry. I know every time there's an exclusive thing happening, I get the questions asked a lot. So of course the pattern will be available individually in a few days on Ravelry, so just maybe keep your eyes on Instagram and Ravelry, and when I will release it on its own, I will announce it. It will be sometime next week. But I do highly recommend the kit if you are able to get it. I know the overseas shipping is a little bit expensive, but that's unfortunately how French shipping costs are. They're really awful. But yeah, if you're in Europe, it's still reasonable, and the yarn and the work that Heidi does is really, really beautiful. So I'm happy to be able to share it with you for this shawl. So Arol is sort of a triangle shawl. Basically, you start at the bottom tip here, and you start with a I-cord cast on, for which I have made a video tutorial in case you've never done it. You have the I-cord that then continues everywhere. You even bind off in I-cord, so all the finishes, the finishing of the shawl is in I-cord. And it's a simpler way of doing the I-cord. It's my favorite way, so you should get the hang of it pretty easily. And you start making the cable and lace panel. So it's not complicated. Like I had amongst my testers people that were quite beginner cable wise, and they did a great job. So the pattern has both charted and row by row instructions. So if you're not as comfortable with following charts, you only need to follow one chart at a time. That's the thing. I made it so that you have a full chart, so you don't need to juggle between charts, because that's a little bit annoying. But if you're still not comfortable with charts, you can follow row by row written instruction. My voice is leaving. I don't know why. Yeah, so it is definitely accessible. I made a video tutorial for the cabling part here, because it's a bit of a non-original cable in the sense that you have a purl stitch in the middle. So I've made a video tutorial showing how to do it with a cable needle and without, because I prefer to do most of my cables without a cable needle. But when you have a purl stitch in the middle, basically, like, this cable is on 5 stitches, so let's say, yeah, we're gonna do this. You have, sounds like a weird sign. So you have 5 stitches, and what you want is 2 here to cross over 2 here. But then you have the purl stitch. It really sounds like I'm doing something rude. I swear, I don't know if this is a rude sign in any culture. I apologize if it is. You want to cross it, but you want the purl one to still be in the middle, and I cannot do that because that's not how human hands are made, but you sort of get the idea. And so you need to kind of handle that middle purl stitch and replace it correctly. It's not complicated, but I have made a video tutorial in case you need it. Then you have some very simple lace and some twisted stitches, which are simple as well. And so you keep up, and then once you have the full panel, which you can see here, you start knitting garter stitch on the sides. And the chart itself is 20 row. Repeat, so you get the hang of it really easily. And also wrong side rows are rest rows. So yeah, it is something that remains accessible. You just need to pay a little bit of attention when you read the pattern, basically, which is what is the difficulty, I guess, in every knitting pattern, is that nothing is really extremely complicated. You just need to pay more or less attention. And here, as you're setting up, you need to read the pattern correctly. But once you've done that, it just flows really easily and there's no issue. I did want to address a thing about reading charts, is that when you're knitting flat, you need to read charts back and forth. I found that a lot of people didn't know that anymore, because I guess we're so used to knitting in a round. But a chart, preferably, I've never seen the other way, but a chart will show you the right side, so that it's normal, so that when you look at it, you see the drawings and you can see the cables. So that's why it shows you the right side of the fabric, which means that sometimes you don't have to start at the right corner. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit all over the places. So since the chart has to show the right side, sometimes it happens that you have to start on the wrong side. Oh my god. I don't know if I'm gonna make any sense. Anyway, the way you read usually a chart is starting at the bottom right corner. Okay, I don't know if you're seeing me reversed, but anyway, at the bottom right corner, okay? But sometimes it's more practical to start the chart on the wrong side. And this is the case here. Basically, the 20 row repeat, once you've done the setup, which is basically until here, after you have a 20 row repeat. And it starts on the wrong side because it's just more practical to set up the repeat that way. Which means that you have to start the chart on the bottom left corner. And that's not super common, but it happens. And for this, you just need to understand that the chart shows the right side. And so if you're on the wrong side, well, you have to read the chart from left to right, okay? Because when you knit flat, you knit back and forth. And so right side rows are from right to left, and wrong side rows are from left to right. Side note for left-handed knitters, I really want one day, when I have time, to learn how to approach left-handed knitting, because I want to learn how to do it, and so that I am able to give advice when you're a left-handed knitters, because it just twists the thing, and it's not instinctive for me to think about. But I appreciate that a whole lot of left-handed knitters prefer to knit in the opposite direction because it feels more natural. And so I really want one day to learn more about this, so that I'm able to help. I'm saying that because the charts that I do, like I said, right side is from right to left, and that may not be accurate if you're left-handed for you. But anyway, that's how the charts are made. So it is the case here that you start on the wrong side. So it's written like 5 times in the pattern. So you shouldn't have any issue. You just really need to pay attention, like I said, and look where the chart says start, and then you read back and forth. But yeah, I found that some of my testers were a bit confused because they thought they had to read the chart like they were knitting in the round, but you don't, because it's flat. So I don't know if I made a lot of sense here, but hopefully you get what I meant. And yeah, but if you don't like reading chart, you can follow written instructions. That's perfectly fine. So you repeat these motifs until you reach the depth that you want, and the pattern has a percentage system in case you are using more or less yarn, you want a smaller shawl or a bigger shawl. And once you reach that depth, you work short rows here. You can sort of see that there's more fabric that goes at an angle here, basically. It curves the top of the shawl, so it's not a triangle anymore, not really, and it's longer than classic triangle shapes. And that means that it's actually easier to wrap. look at how much length I have, because usually when you wear a triangle shawl like this, you have like teeny tiny bit here and you don't really know what to do with it, but this is much better. And it just goes on your shoulders as well, much better. And I really like that improved triangle shape. Improved, not that there's anything wrong with the classic triangle shape, but this is a way of making them longer. And they're wrap and turn short rows, but they're in garter stitch, so they're simple. And then you bind off in I-cord. Look, phew. It is a construction. I'm struggling a bit. It is a construction that means that the shawl, since it's longer, it has like lots of drapes and it curls, as you can see. And this is again something that I really appreciated with the yarn that I used, is that it really flattered that shape because of how drapey it made the whole thing. Really cool. The lace bits are really simple, they're just eyelets and decreases. Other thing I wanted to mention is yarn overs. There seems to be some confusions about what you're supposed to do with yarn overs on the next row. And as usual, the answer is just do what the pattern says. If you do a yarn over and then the pattern says to knit the stitch, well then you knit a stitch and it leaves a hole, and that is the principle of lace. If the pattern tells you to knit through the back loop, then you knit the yarn over through the back loop and it closes the hole, and it can be a way of making increases. But you just do what the pattern says, because I feel like some more beginner knitters, the fear that you have is always that you don't know something and that the pattern assumes that things have to be done in a certain way and that it's not written. That is rarely the case. Like most of my pattern support questions end up with me answering, yes, you do what the pattern says. So you really don't have to fear that there's some sort of underlying implicit thing that you're supposed to do with yarn overs in this case. So yeah, you just do what the pattern says, and in that case they're knitted so that it leaves a hole. And that's how it looks like. There are two bands of lacy stuff. And yay! So did I say everything? Yeah, I just got a bit confused by my messy talks about charts and the right side, wrong side stuff. I think that's everything about the construction of the shawl. So like I said, it is accessible, you just need to pay attention. All of my testers did really well once they got the setup right, and yeah, I really hope you like it. Like I said, do check Heidi if you'd like to get a kit from them. If not, the pattern will be available on its own like sometime next week. Just look around on Instagram if you'd like that. But yeah, I really like it. I just think it makes like sort of a really elegant shawl that can be worn in a bunch of different ways. I've seen one of my testers, actually two, make it like they were wrapping it on their shoulders, and it goes like up to my butt. That's how deep it is. And then they had they attached it here with a brooch. You know what I mean. And I just thought that was so cool. It's really nice. I do like shawl brooch. Is it brooch? It's written brooch, so it should be brooch. But then again, sometimes English writes things and they're not pronounced like they're supposed to be written, which is not the case in French. I'm sorry, even if you think that it is. And so sometimes I'm confused. I think it's brooch. Anyway, you know what I mean. She had a really pretty one, and just attaching it here, and just absolutely lovely because it's so long that you can really do a lot of things in how you want to wear it. And yeah, fingering weight, I think I mentioned that. So you need about 800 meter to make a size like the sample. But yeah, once the pattern will be available on its own in in a few days next week, you will see that you are able to modify if you want to lose more or less yarn. If you want to make a much bigger one, that is totally possible. You can do less short rows if you want to as well. But yeah, I really liked that shape, and the fact that it's like bottom up means that you can knit as well as long as you want, and you can control the depth and the length a bit more that way. So yeah, I'm not going to wear it because it's still pretty hot here, and I believe I said everything. So I will let you know on Instagram and Ravelry when it is available for individual purchase. But yeah, if you want it now and you'd like to try out a really beautiful yarn that is great for it, do check the link to Heidi's shop in the description. I am going to continue with my works in progress. And the first one is one that you know. It's the test knit that I'm doing for Emily Frank of the Blue Mouse. And it's her scrappy... yarn is escaping. It's her scrappy sweater. So I've told you about it last time. It's a drop shoulder drapey garter stitch sweater with drop stitch motifs. So you might be wondering, where is the yellow? Well, the yellow is gone. So last week when I showed it to you, I believe I was about here, and here was a stripe of bright yellow, and I told you I was not so sure about it. And when I was editing the podcast, I was like, okay, that doesn't work, and so I ripped it out. Sorry if you liked the yellow. I think the reason it didn't work is because it was really warm. And if you look at the other bright colors I have, like the blue here or the purple, they're more cool toned, and so they blend a bit more with the rest, because the bright blue there's other blue tints like the mint, this speckled blue here, and the aubergine one, that purple, it goes with the pinkish ones, so that's why these bright colors work, whereas the yellow was a bit alone there, and I think that's why I just didn't like it in the end. So I changed it, and I ended up with all of this, and I really like this color sequence. I think it's really nice. I'm pretty happy with what I did. Like I told you, this was sort of a project meant for me to tame colors, because I don't think I'm particularly good with associating colors together, and so using scraps of fingering weight to make a whole sweater was a way for me to kind of challenge that, and I'm pretty happy with the result. You can see from here up to here is the whole sequence, and then I started repeating it as I was shaping the armhole and neckline. So yeah, you can see that there are motifs of drop stitches on the body that are more or less big. So this is a pretty loose gauge garment. My row gauge is wrong though. I did get stitch gauged, and my row gauge is wrong. My row gauge probably it's tighter. It might be like 8, I don't remember exactly, but I think there's like 8 rows more to 10 centimeter than what the pattern calls for. But I thought that was okay because since it's garter stitch, it's gonna get so looser and expand a little bit. And so if my row gauge was a bit tighter, that was okay. So I had to do more rows here to get to the measurement. The pattern is really helpful for that. There's a lot of indications on how to measure your swatch, your sweater, and what measurement to take into account when you're working on the sweater. Personally, what I did is that when I measure, because as you can see, this looks really short, right? But when I measure, I sort of stretched it a little bit, because that's how it's gonna look when it's blocked, and so I measure like this. when I have to reach the measurement written in the pattern. So this is the front, I think. Yeah, this is the front. And so that's what I have. I have put the stitches on hold here because they're gonna be attached to the back. And I have started the back, and I'm already quite high up. I have done the armhole shaping. I have done some short rows because you can see here in that speckled white that there are some short rows to elevate the back. And now I'm gonna start shaping for the neck as well at the back. And yeah, I really like how it's going. I think the colors work really well together. The project is really fun, and just, you know, garter stitch and just playing around with the colors is really, really nice. I have been weaving in ends as I go, not to get insane, because there's definitely a lot of ends, but if you do it little by little, I think it really is better psychologically. But yeah, this is where I am with this test knit. The deadline for the test knit is early October, so I should be okay. I'm gonna do the top, attach them, and then up to the sleeves. And yeah, I really like how it's going so far. So these are all my colors. I'm gonna link to my Ravelry project page rather than saying all the shades that I used because it's too many. I'm gonna link to my Ravelry project page in the description, and you will see all the dyers and colorways involved in this. But I'm really happy that I managed to get something that is definitely going to be wearable, and I really, really like it. I can't wait to just block the whole thing and see how it goes. Yeah, one thing is that basically once you've done the front, you have your color sequence down, and so you don't really have to follow the rows or count the rows that you're doing anymore, because you just have to copy. So see, here I see that I have 3 garter bumps, so I did 3 garter bumps and I just copy. And you basically only have to count rows for half of the sweater, because you will do it for like the front and the sleeve and one sleeve, and the other 2 halves you can mimic it. So yeah, I just thought that was quite a fun thing to do, and it makes the project really mindless and really pleasant to work on in the weekends. So yeah, hopefully at the beginning of October I will be able to show it to you completed. I will show it to you, I think, once it's released next, so that you can go and check it out if you like it. But yeah, so once again, this is a test knit for the Blue Mouse, Emily Frank, and yeah, I have one last project to share, another work in progress, and it's a new thing. It's a new design that I am working on. So you may have realized, I've talked about it on Instagram, but you may have realized that I have like a lot of dusty pink thing happening. It's I collected four dusty pink sweater quantities for designs, and I didn't realize it until I started working on my designs, on my garment designs for this autumn and winter, and realized that it was all pink. I was like, oh my god, ridiculous. So I just decided to own it and pretend like it was intended, you know? So that's why I'm making so many textured garments in dusty pink. And this is the 3rd one out of 4. They will start getting published in October. I've decided that I will publish one every month, basically. So October, November, December and January will have one of the dusty pink collection textured kind of thing. Considered naming it A Study in Pink, after the like kind of mock title of the Sherlock series for Studying Scarlet. I'm going everywhere again. It's a different mood than last episode. Like last episode I was insane, and now I'm just frankly a bit annoying, I think. But anyway, garment number 3 out of 4 dusty pink garments is this. So this is another raglan. I really like raglans. I think you guessed that raglans are my favorite shape. Even though they're not technically the easiest to design, it's a bit tricky to handle armhole depth, but top down raglan with this texture thing. So it's like, it's a simple texture that like you may have seen around, and I've just arranged it so that at the beginning it drops, and from the middle of the sweater approximately it goes up, so it kind of does this. It's gonna look much better once blocked. So this is gonna be quite a loose, comfy sweater. I want the sleeves to be like straight and just gathered at the cuffs, long cuffs. I have picked up for the neckline, so it kind of looks nice, because before it looked not so nice. But yeah, so what's up with this? This will be called Clocada, which is an absolutely brilliant word. It's Occitan, so the region language where I'm from. I keep saying that, you must be tired of it. It's Occitan for a chick nest. A chick is like a baby chick's nest, okay? So you see why? Because it's sort of like clusters of little baby chicken eggs and chicks. Okay, and it's also a word for the, is it Pleiad in English as well? One of the star constellations, which as well looks like a cluster of different things. And this is one of the names that the lovely owner of Nuage de Laine, which is a yarn shop / cafe in Toulouse, her name is as well Audrey. She helped me finding names in Occitan because she's highly skilled and knowledgeable, and this is one of the names she just suggested. Oh my god, this is one of the names she suggested, and I just think it's so perfect. So Clocada is the name of this sweater, and it's gonna be a really comfy, a bit oversized jumper with this texture motif, which is gonna be scaled from sizes to sizes. It's quite a thin panel, but I've made different charts for different sizes, so that for the larger sizes it's not even smaller. Because sometimes, you know, when you have a cable panel, if you have a larger bust, well then the cable panel looks even smaller. And so I've scaled it. I've chosen to do that even if it means that the design actually looks different. Basically you're gonna have a larger part here and 2 more rows of clusters. It makes the design look different across sizes, but I think that's preferable to having something that just looks out of place in a bigger garment. Let me know what you think about this. It doesn't work for everything, and sometimes it's not so necessary, but here I really felt that because it's like a discrete line in the middle of an oversized sweater, I wanted it to kind of be the same percentage of the whole across sizes. So I've calculated so that it always is around 18 to 20% of the bust circumference, of the front, sorry. So the smaller bit here works for sizes, for the first range of sizes, and for basically half the sizes up will have a larger motif, but it will also be around 20% of the front, so that basically the ratio is the same, even if the look is a bit different. But in that case it worked really well, because it just means that, like I said, you have one extra line on each side, and so the general shape of everything is the same, and I think that was better. It means that there's more charts, and I had to kind of tweak my brain a little, but I think it's much better to do it that way. Now, yarn. I am using a combination of yarn. I like mohair. I have nothing against it. I actually have a little bit of mohair and I want to make a pretty hat with it. And I'm considering making a mohair sweater because I really like the look of mohair in a texture. I'm not a huge fan of plain stockinette, just mohair. I don't think it's like, it's a lot of fluff. I do have a store-bought mohair sweater that I like, but like, I have one. Maybe I'll knit myself a handmade one to replace it, but like, I don't need 5 different mohair sweaters. However, I like a bit of fluff. I like the idea of holding 2 yarns together, because it makes it just makes a different color. I just think it's an interesting thing to do when you're doing textures. And here I just think it's really nice because it just blurs the thing and makes it look more cozy in a sense. I also really like mohair in like brioche or kind of ribbed textures. I have an idea for a sweater design that I think will use mohair, but it's not my fiber of choice to do that. What is my fiber of choice is alpaca. You guys know I really like alpaca, and I know it's kind of all or nothing. People usually like alpaca or they usually like mohair. Like I said, I like both. I do have a preference for alpaca because it's cheaper, it's less fluffy, so it's not all over the place. And I just think it sort of gives a really nice fluffy, soft, gentle effect as well, like mohair, but maybe a bit more tamed. These. So the alpaca I'm using is Holzgarn Titicaca, which is the 100% alpaca lace, and this is the colorway Heather Rose. So Holzgarn, huge range of very affordable yarns, and I'm holding it double with an absolutely beautiful yarn. This is Stranded Dye Works, so Amy France yarn. This is her BFL Massam base, which is amazing. I love it. I'm definitely gonna be looking for more of this base. I'm really happy because more and more dyers are using it, and it's really soft, but it has character. I really like it. And this is her grubby pink colorway, and it's dusty pink and I really like it because it has little speckles of ochre. I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. A little bit, you can see a little bit here that there's like a bit of gold showing through, but it's like really rare, it almost looks like a mistake. And it's just really nice, and so I'm absolutely ruining it by mixing it. No. But I just think, like, when I received them I thought they look a bit too different. Amy Stranded Dye Works she does have mohair base, and she dyes the same colorway on it, but I just I prefer to use alpaca to make the project more affordable for me, and also because of what I said before, that I prefer alpaca, and I'm really repeating myself. But anyway, when I did a bit of guesswork trying to find a color of Titicaca that would match, and this was the closest one, but when I received them I was like, this looks a bit too light. But I knew that when you actually blend the yarns together you can be surprised, and I think it actually, let me show you the back, it actually works really well. It makes like a really nice heathered effect, but the brilliant dye job of Amy still shows, because like the light is not ideal here, but in reality you can really see a lot of nuances. There are specks that are more burgundy, the ochre one I told you about, really really nice, and I think the overall effect is super cool. Yeah, so this is what I've been working on. I'm knitting on the body, almost done. I'm just gonna make a second basically repeat of the motif angling up, and there's gonna be a split hem because apparently I'm obsessed with split hems now, and then I'm gonna make the sleeves. And yeah, I kind of need to chop because I want this to be released in December, so I will be calling for testers, hopefully in not too long. Again, if you want to test for me, just send me your email address, either via Instagram or or on Ravelry, and I will add you to my testers list and you will receive the calls. I also want to thank you for all your enthusiasm around my convertible mittens that I showed last time. I did select my testers this morning. There were really so many people who applied, and yeah, I just feel I always feel awful when I have to select testers, because like I can't accept everyone, and so I think like 42 people applied to test the mittens. It's just way too much. But like at first I went in thinking I'm gonna need like 10, maybe 12 testers, like 42. So I ended up selecting 20 people. The way I select testers is random, basically. Like I try to have a good variety of skills, especially when the pattern is specific. Like there's a new technique or it's something new for me and I want more people to have a look at it. I try to have both experienced and novice knitters because like both opinions are key to making good instructions. And so I try to do that if I need to do some adjustments, but if not, what I did yesterday is that I picked the list of 42 people and I just selected 20 random numbers, because there were so many people that I decided to still take 20, so I could like work with enough people, even though I had to refuse like so many. But yeah, I really need to learn how to say no a bit better, because my problem is I come up with patterns faster than you can test, and so it's normal, I do that full time. And so basically I did the mistake of accepting everyone in a lot of tests over the summer, and so a lot of tests over the summer. And so the thing is, now you're all testing for my designs and I need more testers, but you're already too busy. So I need to actually properly select people and kind of limit the number of testers that I have. But I do like having as many as I can handle, because like there's always someone who's gonna have a really cool idea about a modification that they want to do, or someone that has a specific insight, especially when it's related to sizing in garments. And so I try to have as much as I can possibly handle, without jeopardizing. Oh my god, I shouldn't try to use fancy word, you know what I mean, without ruining upcoming designs, but tests. But yeah, so if you applied to test the convertible mittens and you didn't receive the pattern, I'm very sorry, but there were really too many people. But don't worry, because the mittens will be released at the end of October, and there will be more tests coming for accessories, if that's what you like to test. So yeah, I think I have said everything, and I've been talking for more than I thought I would. I've been a bit all over the place. I do apologize. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I will see you again at the beginning of October with exciting news regarding Patreon, which I will launch at the beginning of October, but I will talk about that in the next episode. And in the meantime, I wish you a very happy rest of the day, week, and rest of September. And I will see you next time. Bye! See, my hair has dried.